Hi everyone, my name is Hannah Treppenhauer, and today I will be presenting on uncertainty reduction theory. Uncertainty reduction theory, abbreviated as URT in the field of communications, is a theory that was first introduced in 1975 by Charles Berger and Richard Calabrese. URT builds off of a model of information theory that was introduced by Shannon and Weaver in 1949, and expands on this theory by implementing a direct focus on the interpersonal communication process. With this direct focus, URT seeks to explain how human beings attempt to reduce uncertainty in initial social interactions through interpersonal communications. Berger and Calabrese observed that when two strangers begin an initial interaction, there is a level of uncertainty between the strangers because they are unable to predict each other's behaviors and don't know what to expect from each other. URT was introduced to explain how human beings attempt to reduce this uncertainty through information-seeking behavior. Berger and Calabrese observed that one of the main motivations of this was to increase predictability. The reason for this being that our ability to plan and adapt is limited when faced with uncertainty. Berger and Calabrese identified two types of uncertainty within URT, behavioral and cognitive. Behavioral uncertainty refers to uncertainty that arises when someone acts in a way that is not expected, which limits our ability to predict and explain their behavior. Cognitive uncertainty is different in that uncertainty stems from concern about what another person might be thinking. Consider how you might feel on a first date. You likely have many questions running through your head. Do they think my joke was funny? Do they think I'm weird? Do they like me? As we gain more information and the interaction becomes more predictable, we become more comfortable and uncertainty is reduced. Now let's consider the first time that you met with your group over Zoom. It's likely that you felt some degree of nerves or uncertainty. Using this, we can demonstrate the three different developmental stages of interaction as denoted in URT, the first being the entry phase. The entry phase can best be understood by social norms and how we greet each other. Hi, how are you? I'm good, how are you? This phase demonstrates why first impressions are so important. If someone deviates from the norm of how we expect them to answer these questions, it provokes feelings of uncertainty, and in extreme cases, may cause a person to skip straight to the exit phase of the interaction. But let's say this didn't happen, and the stranger's responses to questions in the entry phase did make you feel more at ease with the interaction. You would then move on to the personal phase. This stage consists of questions that are meant to explore a person's general values, motivations, and beliefs. After you exchange greetings with your group for the first time, you would likely ask things such as, what do you do for work, and why did you join the program? You may have even probed for their general attitudes towards the class by asking how they were managing to balance the heavy workload. Berger and Calabrese assert that responses to the questions in the first two phases will determine whether or not we will choose to pursue a relationship with someone past our first time meeting them. This choice is made in the exit phase and is determined by the extent that uncertainty is reduced. Berger and Calabrese identified three main strategies that people use to gain information and reduce uncertainty about another person: active, interactive, and passive. The active information-seeking strategy entails no direct personal contact with the subject of uncertainty. Rather, a person using the active strategy might ask someone who knows the subject of uncertainty about them, or they might look online to see if they can gain information about them prior to the initial interaction. The active strategy allows uncertainty to be reduced with no direct confrontation, which is the main function of the interactive strategy. The interactive strategy would use direct confrontation to reduce uncertainty, such as engaging in dialogue and asking questions. The interactive strategy utilizes in-person communications to gain information about another person during the actual interaction. In contrast to both these strategies, the passive strategy doesn't involve any interaction with the unknown person. Instead, information is gained through passive observations of the unknown person prior to interaction, such as watching how they behave in class or how they interact with others. A person utilizing the passive strategy would be able to determine whether to initiate an interaction or not based on conclusions that they made in their observations, and how greatly these conclusions reduce their uncertainty about interacting with the unknown person. While uncertainty reduction theory is widely regarded as the seminal theory in the field of interpersonal communications, several limitations of URT have been identified since its introduction in 1975, such as the assumptions that the theory operates under. URT dictates that humans are innately uncomfortable in unpredictable social situations and are driven to seek out ways to decrease this uncertainty through interpersonal communications. However, this assumption fails to acknowledge other motivations for interpersonal communications, such as desire for positive life experiences and reward-seeking behaviors. The theory additionally ignores situations where individuals wish to maintain a level of uncertainty rather than reduce it. For example, you might suspect that your friend is participating in illegal activities but don't have enough information to draw a conclusion. Or even if you did, you didn't want to confront them or get involved. You might decide that what your friend is doing is none of your business and be motivated to maintain and tolerate that level of uncertainty in your relationship. Recent research further suggests that tolerance for uncertainty may be a more accurate metric for predicting the outcome of interpersonal communications as opposed to uncertainty in general. In addition to the limitations presented by the assumptions of URT, the theory has also drawn criticism for its contextual bias. URT was solely developed in the context of American culture and only included middle-class white people in its observations, resulting in limitations to the theory being applied in intracultural contexts. Despite these limitations, URT remains a widely used theory multiple decades after its introduction and has been repeatedly shown to provide valuable insight within both personal and professional relationships. In the context of organizations, URT has been effectively applied to the job hiring process. Research conducted by Sandra Reagan suggests that the more information is communicated between a job applicant and an interviewer, the more satisfaction the applicant will find in the job, and in turn, the more the company will benefit from decreased turnover rates. Furthermore, both applicants and interviewers may apply active information-seeking strategies from URT in order to reduce uncertainty about the person or organization prior to the interview. In addition to the job hiring process, URT has been applied to both organizational and social crisis communication strategies. Specifically, during the COVID-19 pandemic, URT was used as a framework to guide communication strategies seeking to reduce uncertainty surrounding the mask mandate, stay-at-home orders, and eventually the vaccine. The pandemic created the need to reduce uncertainty for citizens in order to mitigate public health risk, and for organizations to ensure that they would remain functional in the long run. This adaptation of uncertainty reduction theory allows it to be applied to organizational crisis mitigation as a guide in managing uncertainty. Despite the limitations and critiques of the theory, this application supports that future expansion of URT may be used to examine a variety of contexts, both within and beyond the original boundaries of the theory, further cementing the importance of URT as a foundational study in the field of communications. And here are my references. Thank you for listening.